Thanks for joining us in this special episode of Furuno Connections. Over the last 5 episodes, we covered a lot of different topics during our radar shootout. We looked at performance, target separation, long-range and short-range detection, Doppler target analyzer, and a whole lot more. In this episode, we sit down with the captains and crew to find out their take on these radar tests and see how the individual systems performed. We even take a few moments to go over some of the features that you may have missed. So get settled in and let's get started. Well, we're back, and it was an eventful day out there testing the radar systems. Again, we had a level playing field where we had the domes on each of the boats. And Eric, what was your experience? What did you see that kind of surprised you today?
Honestly, I thought the System B was actually quite a darn good radar. It was comparable to the Furuno DRS4DNXT in terms of overall performance. The feature set around the radar in terms of the Doppler signal processing and the target analyzer mode, you know, not quite as good arguably, but the raw radar performance was pretty good. System A and System C were kind of unimpressive to me, honestly, but I'll let the rest of the group comment.
The majority of you, except for Manny, I think, are running Furuno radars right now on your boats. So I'm curious, and Manny, I think you're running the same radar you're running System A's right now. Yeah. So let's start with Captain Jack. What was, obviously you were on the Furuno boat with that, but you're running the Dome rather than the DRS4DNXT class, right? Yep. So it's a smaller radar than what you're used to. So Correct. What was your experience? What did you find?
Actually, I was very impressed with it. You know, with the Doppler target analyzer, that was what was most impressive to me, because for me, safety is number one. And when I was able to see those targets red coming at me, then turn to green as it passed me, that's what was most impressive about everything.
I've just enabled Target Analyzer to do that on the TZ Touch 3 MFD. It's really simple. We pushed all these features into the layer mode. I look at Target Analyzer, I can turn it off and on very simply. So you'll see that all the fixed targets will stay green. And anything moving at us, you'll see will turn red. So anything a threat to us moving at us at a speed of more than about 3 knots will automatically turn red, and that's a threat to us.
So Eric, that Target Analyzer Doppler mode was so impressive to me, to be able to see the targets in red coming towards me, green going away from me. We picked up, the buses, the trucks going across the 7-mile bridge. Yeah. But when it's foggy out, which there's been some unfavorable conditions here lately and unfavorable accidents that's happened. But so if this right here alone can prevent anybody from getting into an accident, this is the best feature that I personally see on this Furuno unit. And after testing, we blew the competition away. And the one thing I know, when I'm boating, I got clients on board, safety is my utmost importance. Of course. And I will be using this feature all the time. Yeah. When you're serious about safety, this is definitely the unit you need, and definitely the mode you want it in whenever you have radar on. I run those radars day in and day out. I look for birds. I'm always looking for boats, but just seeing that was super impressive. Also, it actually performed very well on all the other modes that we had or tested anyway too. So, when we had the skiff inshore, a lot like the other radar, we were still able to see it, close to the mangroves. We couldn't see the separation when it was like very close to it, but we could still see the bump in it tracking and moving. And then once it moved closer to the center, then obviously we were able to see that. Right. Like when we got into the harbor there with all the sailboats, that was very impressive. Each individual sailboat all lined up, even able to see mooring buoys and stuff like that. That was super impressive on that radar. But you know what? That bird mode even impressed me more. We were able to track the birds and have that true tail, follow it. And man, you just see the birds coming, and then there goes the trail like right behind it. It was amazing. I mean, let me tell you what, I'm definitely sold on that unit. The TZT3, unbelievable, hands down, my opinion, number one.
Good. Well, that's good to hear. That's the kind of endorsement we want to hear on a new product like that. Well, Tim, what was your experience? What happened with System A?
So I'm using System A. I'll start out by saying probably one of the most positive things I can say about it, and that's the feature set built around the radar is really good. They put a lot of thought into the features available for that radar, but then there's performance, and I just can't say too many good things about that. My expectation was, being a solid-state Doppler radar, that I was going to see really good target separation, really good close-in targets, and even some good long-distance targets. But what we found to be true, and I'll let the other guys on the boat talk about it too, is targets came and went off of the screen, and I couldn't explain why. It was a perfectly flat, calm day. We had the gain set to high. We played around with the C clutter, and it really didn't seem to matter what we did. Targets were just disappointing.
Yeah, so we had Austin. We're at the 1 nautical mile now, and we just had him as, okay, there he is, if you can see, as a faint target. And he's at about a half mile, and we're picking him up periodically.
So yeah, he started bouncing in and out just after a quarter mile.
Yeah, just
he's
after
been
a quarter
coming and
mile,
going in between a quarter and a half.
Yeah. So it's still picking up the boats next to us, as you can see. Targets are, again, not clearly well defined, but that's expected when we zoom out. So let's take it out one more step there.
We lost him between a quarter and a half.
So we had Austin start out right next to all 4 boats, and he started to move away at a slow clip and then picked it up a pace, and we lost him at about a half a mile. He was getting a very strong signature, quarter mile, eighth of a mile, and then as soon as he hit that half mile ring, his target started to diminish, and we lost him. And obviously we haven't seen him. He's been off our screen for about going on 2 minutes now.
Yeah. Well, Matt, in a former life, you were somebody who installed a lot of these System A systems on boats.
Yes, many of them, yeah.
So what was your takeaway from this whole thing?
I mean, I think today the most surprising thing was when Austin took the skiff out, and when he was coming inbound, we picked him up visually with our eyes before the radar did.
Oh, wow.
That was pretty surprising. We were not expecting that at all. Normally it's supposed to be the opposite, but yeah, in this scenario, that's what happened.
Captain Mike, you were on System A. What was your experience?
I really don't have too much good to say about System A. I mean, it worked. It's, anything that we lost a lot of marks. They would disappear. They wouldn't be there for a while. I really use those radars for weather and my birds. That's mainly when I'm using those radars. So I'm not really using those for anything up close, And I noticed everything that was coming close, especially when we were in Boot Key Harbor with the sailboats and the mangroves. Like, everything just seemed to bunch up and just looked like one big wad. And we had bird mode on, and we really weren't even picking up the birds at all. And it just, I've been running these Furuno radars, and it just doesn't even compare. It's not even close. And I don't doubt that. I kind of wish we had some weather today to kind of see what it would look like with some foul weather, but I would assume that it's probably not going to even compare, and that's the thing too. It's safety. It's like, some of these spots I had no idea how far, where it was at, or even what it was, and that's just something you can't really guess on. You need to be 100% on that.
Yeah, well, and when you're serious about getting home safely, you really have to have a radar that you can depend on.
For sure.
And when you are second guessing yourself because you don't know if you're going to see the targets,
Correct.
That's dangerous.
It's dangerous, and down here it does get foggy. And it gets real bad, and it's not all the time, but when it does, you need that.
Right.
Or nighttime.
Or even nighttime. It was even hard to pick up some of the buoys that were in the water, especially if you're running at night in the Gulf side. There's hundreds of thousands of traps out there, and you can't see where those buoys are. And, it just only takes one or two to just foul up your motor, and you're sitting in the dark out there. So I wasn't too impressed with it, to be honest.
Okay. And Clayton, you were on System B.
Yeah.
So Eric gave it a good review. So what was your experience?
I was pretty impressed with it too, because we were getting excellent target separation even when we went into the channel, and we could pick out the skiff running along the coastline. It was starting to kind of merge in with the weeds, but you could still see it moving and pick it out. And then when we were going out and coming back in and running around underneath the bridge, you could pick all the separate pilings out. You could see the railroad bridge from the coast side of the ocean front highway. So you could tell those two bridges apart. We could see all the boats and the skiff. The only time we lost it is at long range, like a mile and a half, we'd lose it. Or when he went under the bridge, we'd lose him in the radar returns to the bridge. All right, so we've got Austin's moving ahead of us right now. We can see him right here. We're picking him up on the radar pretty good. He's heading towards the bridge. We're gonna see if we can pick him up after he passes on the other side of the bridge. It's a little less than a mile, so we should be okay. What do you think's gonna happen?
I think we're going to pick him up very clearly.
You think we're gonna get him?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a good radar. It's proven itself, all the other tests that we have done, and I think it's going to work phenomenal.
I mean, we're picking up stuff on the other side of this bridge, so I
Yeah.
think we should be okay. We'll see if we can separate him from these other boat targets out
Yeah.
here. We do have a few false targets on here, which are probably echoes from the bridge. You'll notice it's kind of a straight line as well, so it's reflecting again. So hopefully we can separate Austin's target from the actual second returns on the bridge. So he's passing under it right now. Okay, so Austin is on the other side. I don't see him yet. We'll figure out how far away from the bridge he is. Okay, so I think he's on the other side of the bridge. I think we lost him in here somewhere, unless that's him. Because he should be moving away from the bridge, but I don't see him moving anymore. Because this target's not moving, so that's not him.
All right, does anybody have Austin on the other side of the bridge?
No.
Unconfirmed. I've got one target that's not moving that looks at should be about his position, but I don't think it's him.
Have him about on and off inconsistently, but we have a target about 0.78 or 8.89, 0.86 miles away.
The features, like the target analyzer and Doppler target analyzer mode, that did not function at all, and we couldn't get it to work. We would have, when Austin was coming in with the skiff, we had it set on for approaching only. We saw no color change on targets at all. Not once the entire day.
Wow.
And we couldn't get it to work either. We opened the book. There's not one mention of it in the manual at all.
Really?
Period.
Wow.
That's kind of disappointing because that's such a key feature with the solid-state radars. That's such a key safety feature that I've been touting, and it's so easy to use with our NXT radars, and so valuable that I've heard a lot of customers feedback that I'm kind of that was, while the radar, like I said, the raw radar performance was good.
Oh, yeah, it's
but
fantastic.
it was disappointing not disappointing for me obviously, but I was kind of shocked that it didn't work that well.
Well, we were kind of disappointed too, because you're calling out over the radio that you're watching the trucks and cars going over the Ocean View Highway bridge, and they're turning red as they're crossing the bridge.
Exactly, yeah.
And we've got nothing.
Wow.
Nothing at all.
Benny, how about you? So you were on System B, which had good performance.
Yeah.
What was your thought on that?
System B impressed us from the very beginning. As we're leaving the marina here, it marked pretty well. As we did all the tests, it was neck to neck to the Furuno, and the only part that it did lose some was during the bird mode, and when we were in the creek, and it blended in. The skiff blended to the mangroves a bit, but we were able to show a lot more than the other ones. It did impress me all day. I don't have much bad to say about it, other than it impressed.
Yeah.
But it performed really well. So I'm very pleased.
That's good.
With how it performed today.
And that's what this is all about. Is we want to make sure that we're showing the good and the bad, and really having an unbiased test here. And so I'm glad to hear that.
It did well.
And again, when we set out, we said that all these systems are really good systems, and so it's good to hear that there are, because of the safety of a radar, that there's other systems out there that perform.
It even beat the one that my open array that I use on a daily basis, which is System A, and then by comparison we installed it back on, and yeah, he blew it away. So it's pretty good.
Wow, interesting.
And that's an open array radar.
Yeah, it's an open array one.
Yeah.
Well, Braden, how about you? You were on System C, right?
Yeah, I was on System C with Captain Cam, and I've got kind of a pro and a con. Start with the good stuff. When we went into Boot Key Harbor and we had all those sailboats moored around, you know, on that 8th mile range, we had really good target definition and target separation. When we moved past that 8th mile range, my targets really started to get blend together. I couldn't see if it was 5 sailboats or 1 large boat. But in close, we had some really good target separation and definition. The biggest con and the biggest thing that surprised me was being a solid state radar is you're not really supposed to have a main bang. You know, for anybody else, it's kind of a blind spot around the radar. So what we're seeing is we are seeing the left side of the creek here, and we're starting to pick up the right side of the creek here. But one thing we've got to point out is that this main bang area here, this blind spot in the radar, you know, is really evident now that we're up against these mangroves, you know, up here on the right-hand side. You know, that's going to be a blind spot in your radar, and it looks to be about 1/32 of a mile. It's about 165 feet. So, Cam, knowing that, you know, as much as you run, and much as you're running at night, if you knew you had about a 165-foot blind spot in your radar, is that something you feel comfortable navigating around with?
Not at night. Definitely not. No,
Okay.
I mean, that's the difference between seeing a channel marker if you're on plane kind of moving and not seeing the channel marker, which could be bad.
So if any objects come in there, we just lose them. They're gone.
Wow.
We don't see them. When we were doing the skiff test in the creek, you know, the skiff was part of the mangroves, and when he got anywhere near us, we lost him. So I was really, really kind of disappointed. I expected a lot better out of a solid state radar than what we did see.
You couldn't see him at all.
I saw him in the middle of the creek. That was the only time I could see him.
Wow.
Yeah. Captain Cam, you had System C on your boat.
Yeah, I had System C, and it was an alright system, you know, if you would be doing something, I guess, close quarters, or you were a trawler of some sort, because it saw very well in the harbor. It made out those sailboats that you could see for navigating and things. But as far as what we do, as far as fishing, finding birds, finding weather, seeing objects running kind of away from you or to you, it just didn't really keep up with what we use day in and day out, which would be the Furuno. So
Okay.
it just, you know, it wasn't the worst thing, but it also wouldn't be my choice.
Well, I will say that as soon as we got back here, the guys asked us to put the Furuno radars back on, so there's something to be said for that. So thanks for joining us in this episode, and we have got more to come, so stay tuned to Furuno Connections. Well, that's it for our radar testing. Hopefully you found it informational and gained some good knowledge from all the different radar tests that we conducted so that you can make a good informed decision on which radar is best for your boat. Coming up next is our fish finder shootout, where we take a look at the built-in fish finders and connect them to the same transducer model on all 4 systems. If fishing is your passion, you're not going to want to miss the next episode of Furuno Connections. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, subscribe, and click on the bell below to get notifications for the next time we release new videos. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.